I asked the hotel if I were able to combine it, and they said, no, you're either here or you're not here. I really like that. Being able to just be in control of everything. I could literally go from, educating, graduating, and straight into the hotel business. The passion of the craft that we do, especially as bartenders and as chefs, providing extraordinary service and not just service. That was a rare thing.
Jannik, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you for inviting me.
This crazy idea of coming to a podcast and not knowing that much about a podcast. Mm-hmm. So basically what we are trying to do in here is to give something back to the community, is to, with our conversation and with your experience in this industry, to see how a bartender, a chef, a waiter go when they reach a certain level and they want to go next, what they can do. Your profile is, as I like to call it, as an entrepreneur. You are going from here to there, and you've done so much in the past. Can you do a very, very short introduction of yourself, let's say 5 minutes or 2 minutes, of what you've done in a time box, and then we can go back to in depth.
I'll try. Jannik, name, 38 years old, 2 children, married, moved to the suburbs, lives in a house, started bartending in 2004. Was basically just handpicked from a gym session by a guy called Rico, and then followed a couple of years in nightclubs. Most famously the NASA, the white nightclub that was hugely popular in the early 2000s. Then kind of got hooked on cocktails after meeting Øyvind Tue, who used to run a very successful bar called The Dive, which basically were a cocktail-themed dive bar that was open until 6, 7 in the morning, or as long as the crowd allowed it to be. And he kind of got me hooked on the whole cocktail thing, and also the hosting, creating an atmosphere, creating a vibe for the guests, and being present. At the same time, the nightclub I was working at that time, called Lux, they had a lot of courses that were focused mainly on the teamwork, the art of providing a customer experience that were more than just providing a product. One thing is, hospitality goes way beyond just, serving plates and drinks, and that entire, that realm of service and hospitality, and being there and creating something unique for the individual guests, that just fetched and just catched me completely. I would say hooked, and it was kind of a drug, which this business can become. And I just took every shift everywhere I could get my hands on. So I was briefly at Hard Rock Cafe, worked for a beer bar, even worked at a gay bar, even worked wine bar. And I guess it culminated with me getting contract to go to Dubai and open a French-Japanese cocktail and restaurant lounge. Spent a year there, came back, thought that I was wasting my life just working nights, and wanted, after discovering Dubai, the natural interest of becoming a hotelier as a part of how to expand. You spend 4 or 5 years just bartending, then you think about what's next. So I entered hotel school in Denmark, completed that whilst working at 1105 and MASH, the steakhouse. Then I got a job immediately after. Actually, I also opened another place called The Lot. I think that's an important part because I met a lot of cool people there. Amongst them, a guy called Jeremy. And when I finished hotel school, he was a part of opening Balthazar Champagne Bar, which is located at the Hotel d'Angleterre, which is a famous 250-year-old hotel in the middle of Kongens Nytorv, Copenhagen Square. I could literally go from educating, graduating, and straight into the hotel business. And I spent 3 years there.
Yeah.
Also opening the hotel bar. I held the very, very exclusive title of executive bar manager. I was so proud of it. You have no idea. And just being able to wear a tux every now and then, or at least a suit when I was working, it was very in my character, I'd say. At some point, I started to flirt with the other gender, found a wife, and we moved in together, and we had a child, and then we had a second child, and having 2 children and still working, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, also sometimes Sundays. became a bit of a, I wouldn't say a problem, but it was quite hard because most of the other people that you meet in your life, they're day walkers.
Yeah.
So in order to balance it out, I started to do private gigs, mainly because I helped a lot of event companies, and it was a good way of getting extra income next to the full-time job, next to the house and the wife and the child. And back in 2014, it just became too much to do both. So I asked the hotel if I were able to combine it, and they said, no, you're either here or you're not here. And that kind of pushed me into try to do it full time. First year was relatively successful. Second year was not. It was expensive, and then that was when Copenhagen Cocktail Academy got born. Ran that for 5 years, then another 4 years, and then quit. Came back. There was some Corona, and started a new business called Spitze, which you obviously has been a part of it.
Which is
a vital part, which is my current business. And then, as you've been so kind enough to bring to this podcast, also my own RTD line. And now we're here.
So now we're here.
Was that 5 minutes?
That's perfect. It was just an introduction for our listeners to see the whole journey, how you started, from which position you started, and where you are right now. And the one thing that I am interested in, and I hope our listeners are interested as well, it's the journey, because you mentioned quite a lot of places. And let's say, yes, you got to a point where you end up in a hotel job. Let's go to, let's say, Danglatier or the Balthazar Champagne Bar, where you were the executive bar manager. Where what kind of skills you learn, what kind of skills you need to enter into that position from when you are a bartender moving to a management position?
It's interesting. I'd say first and foremost is your people skills. I mean, the way that you're able to communicate in a respectful manner, so people also respect you and treat people with respect. That's something you learn as soon as you get outside of the Danish borders. Because hospitality, when I left Denmark, was kind of a, obviously we had the Michelin-starred restaurants, we had 5-star hotels, but it was more like people were there because it was a job. The passion of the craft that we do, especially as bartenders and as chefs, waiters as well, providing extraordinary service and not just service. That was a rare thing. I mean, we're talking 2008 now when I left Denmark. And going into a business in which you work with Japanese, English, Filipinos, Indians, Australians, Italians, and French people, all in the same kitchen, and all in the same setting. You also get quite the cultural impact and learning. And being able to switch in between personalities and cultures and personalities, it's a very, very good way of creating a very good feeling about yourself. Back when I came back from Denmark, my bar manager Giorgio, he was Italian. He was actually an indicated accountant, but he thought that was super boring, so he started to do bartending instead when he was 28. So he had a pretty interesting profile, but he was very good at providing some sort of feedback. So how would I be able to be successful when I enter management? And he said, you just have to be on point of everything. You need to know before they ask you. And you need to somehow work much harder than everyone else, because only based on your work ethics, people will respect you. So naturally, I just worked harder than everyone else, which also had, a price. You were pretty much tired. If you look at pictures of me 10 years back, I just constantly have, wrinkles around my eyes. You can see from my firstborn's christening, the picture, I might be very happy, but you can just see how sleep deprived I am. And but it didn't matter because I loved what I did. It was a passion for me. And when your passion shines through and people can see how much you enjoy it, you naturally attract people. And if you can do that visually, and you can do it with your communication, and you can do it with your management style, also always be pretty on point, then people will see you as a future bet. And that's how you get up the ranks. But you would most likely in this industry become a manager when you're far away from actually being ready. So it's also about, trusting yourself and, trusting your instincts, but also just take the decisions and just learn from all the mistakes that you do. But I can't tell you how many times I've been in a situation in which I'm not sure I'm taking the right decision here, or ordering way too much champagne for a given event, or, just especially when it comes to cost control. But kind of always felt that being able to manage a team and building a team up, so regardless of what happened to me, the team will just fulfill the task. That is, that is the pinnacle of the management part of being a manager, is that you could basically step outside and everything will run exactly as smooth as when you're not there. In Denmark, it's hard because usually you don't have that much staff. You have you and maybe one or two others, and you are the bar team. So when you get into hotels, it's different because there's a different economy. Then you have a bigger team, and you also have HR, and you have much more. You have a longer list of possibilities in order to get your team motivated, and you have most likely you have a budget to also do social gatherings and being able to invest in management courses and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So
how hard was it to do this transition from the hotel, from being behind the bar every night, to work countless hours to your own business, I believe?
Oh, well, you tell me. You're in the middle of it. I mean, sometimes it gets lonely, because if it's your own business, you more or less only have yourself to be accountable for. So and it often happened that I would be working 24 hours straight for 3 days, and then on Sunday, when I thought I would be able to just kick back, relax, spend the time with the family, I would get a call from the guy I had my let's say I had my inventory with, and he would say, I'm going to kick you out if your bartenders doesn't know how to clean up after themselves. So I forgot to make sure that they got rid of the trash in a proper fashion and was just put outside of the storage, and the flies became in. So that was small things that because you were simply too busy to take care of it. That would be the problems, a recurring problem, that you're not able to be doing everything yourself. Until you get to a point in which you can see that you finally get, a bit better economy, and you get, recurring guests, and your customer and client base, increases, and you get much more, steady business. That's when you can start to, okay, I know that I effectively need to have someone else help me in this one. One of the hardest parts of me is delegating. Because you know that you have a very certain way of doing business. You have a very certain way of doing the drink. You have a very certain way of putting up the bar. You have a very certain way of dressing yourself, putting on your uniform, and you have a very certain way of doing your service. So that meant that you just need to, I need to just train people. Train, just write everything down, starting to do SOPs, exactly like you would do when you were a bar manager. But somehow, when it's your own business, that's just things that for my sake, at least in my case, it was the last thing I was looking for. I said, no, I can do the most of this myself. But in the end, I was doing service behind the bar and having some bartending team taking care of the business 4 or 5 other places in the around town. And then you just need to have, some very, very specific and very proper outlined briefings. So briefing became my obsession. In the end, most bartenders told me, Jannik, I never read your briefings. I pretty much know what you want. But the transition definitely was also that you don't have that steady income. You constantly need to see where you can save some money and bootstrap yourself, because in the end, you maybe have 1 or 2 gigs a month. It will maybe it will be an income of, let's say, 25,000. Then the VAT needs to get paid, and then you have 20,000 left, and then you have to check out your monthly expenses. Maybe you have something for some accounting, maybe you have something for the storage, and then it's another 5,000, and then you're looking at 10,000, 12,000 after taxes. Oh, actually before taxes, and then you end up having maybe 3,000 to yourself because you need to leave some. So so the idea of working with the business next to the job in the beginning were natural, because then you can build up a little bit, and then you can start to invest in a proper storage, or maybe you could invest in a car, so you don't have to rent a car every time. You can invest in bar gear, mobile bars, glasses, equipment, maybe even a better website, so you can start attracting clients via Google, and so all of a sudden you became everything.
So you are the whole.
In the beginning, you were just the manager taking care of drinks, making menus, managing your team. Now you're the accountant, you're the marketing executive, you're also the legal advisor, you're also the service manager, you're also the salesman, you're also the director, and you're also the HR. And so, and I really like that. Being able to just be in control of everything, which is also why I wanted to be a hotelier. Own my own hotel, because then I could just jump to each department and be a part of everything. But then again, it ended up being a specialist, which I'm quite proud of. But I guess that's just a fraction of the thoughts that goes through your mind when right before you fall asleep at night when you start your own business.
Yeah, aside the Spitze, which is the actual business right now with the events and all of the luxury events, because you position yourself more into the luxury category, and then you do consultancy. If somebody wants to become a consultant as well, do you believe you need to go through every single stage of the business of being runner, being bartender, being head chef, being everything? Or you can just go into one and then learn the other ones, let's say in school or in another place? Are you more keen to say, okay, if you want to become a consultant, you need a lot of practice, or you need a school, or you need both combined? How would you define it?
It's a very good question, because when I did my first consultancy, I was very focused on the drinks. But also I had mainly been doing drinks. Yes, I knew how to run a kitchen, I knew the food and wine, everything. I think you need to first of all look at the business holistically, so you can see what other areas will your impact touch, right? So as a consultant, most of all, you need some credentials. Someone needs to somehow, advise someone else to get in touch with you in order to provide a business strategy or a bar menu or whatever they need the help for. But most consultants, they do a lot of self-promoting, telling everyone else that they are very good consultants. And that's because they knew about the metrics behind the bar menu. They knew how to get the right supplier. They know how to present it, how to visualize it, and they also know how it's supposed to taste. But in reality, when you do consultancies, it's mainly people that have no clue about what your expertise is all about, and they want to pay you to teach them. And so you can do that, but the quality of your work will be a lot better if you know all the other stuff, So being a hospitality consultant, contrary to a bar consultant, is two very different things. Because if I call myself a hospitality consultant, because I would be able to open a hotel. When we sit in front of the architect trying to draw out what's supposed to be in this, that I would know exactly where we would go, for the kitchen, for the lounge, for the rooms, for the housekeeping, for the technical areas, and parking, valet, everything. But if you want to do that, you need to have some very high-profile people telling other high-profile people that they need to contact you. And sometimes you just need to nail it once with the menu. I guess the easy answer will be yes. You need to have worked in a kitchen. You need to have been in front of house, back of house. You need to be, in the very bottom and to the very top, and you've seen all areas of the business, because that's also how we work in a business and an industry that has a margin of flaws, and it's very error prone. So then that's why we always have a lot of layers of management. Especially the Germans are very good at this. That you have, you don't have a bar manager. You have a general manager, then you have a assistant general manager, then you have a lounge manager, then you have a chef de cuisine, you have a bar manager, assistant bar manager, bar supervisor, assistant bar supervisors, just so many layers. Because then you have a full focus on all areas, so you don't spend too much money. You always take care of your procurement. You always make sure that the bookings are correctly informed and communicated, that all dietary criteria is met for the individual guest, and so on and so forth. So it's the short answer.
You said at one point right now that you need to find high profile people. How do you usually find them, or where do you find them when you are, let's say, in a transition? Where do you find your first client, second client? How do you get to that high profile people?
I mean, the easiest is to call them directly, you know, but you don't always know who is willing to pay a lot of money for a private cocktail party or a huge wedding. Working in the most luxurious hotel in Denmark was a very natural way of getting, you know, getting a very personal relationship to the guests. So when you have all your regulars coming in, they would always come in, especially Thursday, Friday afternoon was the perfect time for me. Also Wednesdays, because Wednesday was a bit slow, then you had a regular coming in Wednesday evening with a date or something like that, and you would have a lot of very, very personal conversations. I also had a lot of regulars that were in the middle of their life crisis or in the middle of a divorce and stuff like that. And as a bartender, especially on the slow nights, which in my case were Wednesday become, you know, the psychology evening. I would be the best friend, the counselor, the person to go to just, you know, they could just pour their hearts out and they could tell me everything. I know stuff about people I shouldn't know. and that's the beauty of this industry, that you, in a much more way, because if we compare it to many other businesses, I think that one of the most unique things about being in this industry is that you get to meet so many people and you get to talk to so many people. And then it allows you to travel, it allows you to get new experiences, only because you made a very good drink on a slow night. Because word of mouth is a very, very strong fact in our industry. And everyone who talks about, you know, hey, I was at Balthazar the other night, and the bartender, he was such an amazing individual. And I just felt I was the only guest there, even though he had 400 other guests screaming for drinks. I could just feel him or her, you know. And that's been my, I would say, X factor, that I was able to, you know, get under the skin on my guest, and they would just randomly say, hey, it's my 40th next week. I kind of wanted to do something big. Would you like to come by?
Yep.
Then you come by, you're out there, then you meet all his friends or her friends, and then they get to love you and adore you, and then they will tell their friends, and then the next 40th, and the next 40th, or the 50th. Or the wedding, or the, you know, copper wedding, silver wedding, diamond wedding.
So
Diamond would be impressive. So it's first of all, it's about, you know, having the guts to just talk to your guest. You know, in the very beginning, it was like, just ask, you know, HV in Denmark, HV, you know, or WH. So what you been up to? Where did you come from? Which restaurant did you dine at? What's your name? What do you do for a living? You know, random questions. And all you need to do is just, and I always wanted to have a name tag, because then people could remember me. But you know, in Denmark, it's also something about security and stuff like that. But just strap on a name tag. I would like to have, you know, a huge ass sign, maybe with my own handwriting, you know, bar manager Jannik, because then people could remember me. And then I would be able to, you know, proudly go behind the bar and just, how can I make your evening spectacular, right? I got this new drink I want you to taste. I got this new snack on the menu that the chef has specifically designed for this cocktail. And the same goes when I started my own business, and then, okay, I really want to do something from this accountant firm. And I would just call them up and say, hey, my name is Jannik. I do high-end events focusing on quality products and spirits. Can I drop by and do a session for you, just maybe 4 or 5 people for free, and then you can check it out, and maybe we can do a thing for your next summer or Christmas party.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's a very important thing. To sum it up, is more like how you leverage your position, your actual position, for the future, and creating this network environment while being behind the bar. I believe it's an important thing that you have to do it, because you also have to look into the future, where I'm going in the next 5 years, where I'm going in the next 10 years.
And it's a very natural thing to be very short-term oriented in the beginning of your 20s, because you think about, you know, the next month, the next 6 months, and until you sit down maybe during your summer holidays, and you figure out, while lying on the beach, I might not want to work nights more than a year or two. How can I prepare for? And then you start to become creative, right? The creative process is also a part. It's a very vital part of being, you know, self-employed, that you get ideas that could promote yourself or your business. But most businesses in the beginning, it's all about you. It's not the business itself.
Yep.
Everyone wants to invest in the people behind you, behind the brand or behind the business, not necessarily the business itself, unless you are some sort of tech savvy enthusiast that has made, a very unique formula, then it's the formula, not you. And that's when it becomes dangerous, because then you need to figure out the legal ways of not being, screwed over, and which is another part of being, a part of the self-employment realm, right? But yeah, I mean, it's a bit of I would say a corny saying, but your net worth, or your network is your net worth, is becoming increasingly more apparent, especially because of social media, and you can connect with people across the world within seconds, right?
So we have the hotel side cleared for the people as well, and then we have the luxury events. You position yourself with Spitze, and also with the old company, which I call it the legacy company, the Copenhagen Cocktail Academy. That's actually how you and me met a couple of years ago and started working together. There's definitely a huge improvement from one company to another company. How often do you look back and say, we did this right, we did this right, and we did this not so right? Now we can do it even better with the new company, and how you used all the knowledge that you have to put it into the new one and adapt it with all of the social media and all of the new things that appeared in the world, the Gen Z and
the new generation. Yeah.
New generation.
Daily, I'd say. I mean, it's in every aspect. I mean, now Spitze has been started, and we've done a lot of things, but you also tend to walk down the same path, and then you maybe only do a very narrow adjustment from the first method that you used back then. I'd say when it's also based on where are you in life, as a father and a husband, naturally I have to somehow figure out how my private economy will be affected by starting all over. Would I be able to, because I had a 2-year hiatus from the industry and then came back, and then I wanted to come in, full throttle. So how do I do that? In my opinion, in my mind, I thought, okay, I need to have a massive website portfolio. I need to expand because Cocktail Academy was about cocktails and very much just cocktails. And in order to expand the business portfolio or the service portfolio to a much larger, broader category of services, so it could be, consulting, or we could do food, we could do event management. I also looked at how should I, divide this, and how would it be easy for the potential client to go into the website and just with no less than 3 clicks have the service that the person were looking for. For the planning, it's also how can I make sure to be successful enough within the first year and get enough traction and enough clients to pay myself and my employees and my vendors and my taxes. I mean, let's say that I did 15 mistakes when I did my first business. I did 11 of them all over again when I started Spitze, because it felt right. I mean, sometimes I always trust my gut feeling, and I can literally see every time that I went against it, it just cost me a lot of money. Actually, it just cost me a lot of money and time, and that's time is money. I'm not afraid of making the same mistake twice, but when I do it, I really I pan myself. Just put, you did it again, man. Why would you do that? You know exactly how this is going to end. So why would you do it one more time? And then it's sometimes I believe that if I do this one more time, it can be for the greater good, or it can create some sort of hype about a specific thing that I want to promote. I also, if after all, we can see that, especially after Corona, that all these quick fixes, quick businesses, small businesses that just become a business because you have a nail and you have a hammer and you have a piece of wood, they almost vanished, right?
Yeah.
When people start new businesses today, there's an architect designing everything. There's a proper budget, a proper backing. There's a proper website. There's proper management. There's proper staffing. And I kind of felt that if everything isn't proper from day one, I would lose traction, which meant that it cost me a fortune to start. I mean, we were quite successful the first year, but we spent all the money, every penny, on making sure we had the beautiful high-end mobile bars that we have. Everyone was dressed nicely, that we have that perfect glass. So everyone was just, that Spitze always make things Spitze, right? So Also naming it Spitze were another thing, we can never do wrong, never, ever. It's like the World Cup final every time we do something, even the little things, right? Even if it's just 12 people. I'd say that the main thing that I did different is that I tried to be much more aware that I would be more present, that I would make sure that instead of just thinking this will sort out itself at some point, then make sure that I don't have all these loose ends. I think that's the biggest improvement I made. That I make sure that everyone is taken care of. We have communication all around. No one is left behind, either staff or vendors or anyone.
How about moving? Because when I said in the beginning, you are an entrepreneur. You had this amazing experience before. Now you have the active company with the events. And then how did this product came in? Because all of a sudden you have the hospitality businesses, and then you come up with the idea of making your own product, which is not the only ones, because I know you have your own line of spirits for the Spitze.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is something separate.
Services is a very difficult business to scale. It's a people business, so it takes time to gain the knowledge, gain the traction. One of the things that were interesting is that we had, let's say we had 400 clients in Cocktail Academy. We would just contact everyone again, just with the new name, and say, hey, I'm back in the business. I know you haven't heard from me in 2 years. Now it's called Spitze. We can do everything, right? I think we only managed to get like 10% back. So going from revenue close to 10 million, we had to fuck around in the midst of 1-2 million, which is not a lot for full-time business. So naturally, also because I kind of briefly touch upon this during Corona, because at that time it was all about online web shops, and the only way we could provide businesses was packing stuff, and that's where I started to experiment with bottled cocktails. So I was working on that project whilst doing Spitze. I just needed to find the perfect combination of making cocktails that would be tasting good and fresh, and never run out, and without any shelf life. So it took some time to find the right vendor, or I would say the right distillery to be able to do this. I found one in Spain through a mutual friend of ours, Daniel, and I visited the guys in Bilbao and talked about how can we do this. So we did a lot of flavorings and back and forth, and this became the free products to begin with, and it's out there now. So and the thing is, when I launched this, I thought I was quite happy with it. Now I don't. Now I want to improve them, massively. It's, we can do this and this, and the more you taste your own product, the more tired you get of it. But also the Downton Abbey, which has been a drink that I first started making at Balthazar. It's just been the drink that everyone has talked about. So the drink itself became a customer magnet, right? So did you make the Downton Abbey? Yeah, that was me. We always have it when we visit Balthazar. Did you really make it? Yeah, I did really make it. And then, with different tweaks, and it's still one of the most popular cocktails. I'm quite sure that Remy, who is the current bar manager at Balthazar, he's still sick and tired of making the drink. At least that's what he tells me. I thought it would be a natural line extension. Also, Warren Buffett once said, don't invest in businesses you don't understand. And I have a natural creative spirit that I just need to start something new. I love to start. I love the beginning of the process and the beginning of businesses. I would like to make 100 more businesses, so it's much more about the entrepreneurial spirit. But I don't want to make a business that I can't somehow see a direct sales path or sales source or revenue stream. So having Spitze on the side doing events, why would I then offer a glass of wine when I could offer a glass of Jannick's drinks? Which is, this product is basically made so you can just fill a glass with ice and pour it over, and it will have the same flavor profile and drink profile as an aperitif. Or you can shake it and enjoy it as a cocktail, or you can top it up with champagne and enjoy it as a spirit. So I also wanted to do a product that is not the same as everyone else out there. Most products today is just supposed to be, first of all, it's refrigerated, so it has a shelf life, and you can open it and drink it, and it's done. This you can open and you put back in the fridge. You can grab it again, and you can use it as a mixer. You can use it as a cocktail on itself, and the other versions that I just mentioned. So yeah, I just had to start it. So it felt very compelling when Spitze were up and running. That okay, let's launch this as well. they two marry each other quite well, or they fit each other quite well. So so it's two businesses that can create revenue for each other.
So those two businesses, the Downtown Abbey and the Speaks agency, they came after 2 years pause period.
Yeah, exactly.
How was it, that pause period? Because most of the bartenders, chefs, waiters, you are at your lowest moment when you say, "Oh, we're gonna quit this and I will never come back to the industry."
I've been there, but I think when you, as a bartender, when you get to the point in which you say, "I have no future in this," then it's because you're in a job that you have nailed everything. Then you can, challenge yourself and try to apply for a job in a much more competitive or high-profile bar. That's also why it ended up being luxury, because I started pouring beers at a Vesterbro cafe, and then ended up serving champagne for the ambassador in his private home. And that was, that was a 6-year gap from the first pour to the last shake, if you may say. So you need to constantly challenge yourself. Also with competitions, competition is a great way of challenging yourself. Also because if you're successful, you get to travel.
Yeah.
And as bartenders, we get to travel a lot with everyone else paying the bill. We get to visit a lot of restaurants with everyone else paying the bill. If you're just very good at your craft, and you need to be very canny. Obviously, you need to be very creative and just be. I'm looking for a word in English. I forgot. Nysgerrig.
We keep it in Danish.
You need to be very curious when looking for better ways to do your drinks, to improve your knowledge. The more you know, the more you can relax. And that's all as you become older. But then again, I always try to make sure that I wouldn't fall behind on any parts of life. So I managed to find, I was lucky to find my wife in a very young age. And get a child in a very young age. Also the second child. I even have another child coming in, which is, which is supposed to be a girl, but now it's another boy. So I have 3 boys now. But then again, that I have my safe base at home. I have my wife who supports me, and that's the longevity. I would say that's most of the longevity behind my most of the reasons why I have such a longevity in this business, because my base at home were. Has been a steady and a rock solid from day one. And then at a certain point, you just can't. You don't feel that you can get to know anyone, and you feel that you're much more qualified to do the job than all your managers. You don't feel the owners they are good enough to provide you with any more knowledge or skills. That's when you go to competitions. Then you win all the competitions, or at least maybe you do good. Then there's only one way to improve yourself, and that is to start your own business. That came naturally to me. Otherwise, you get to a super low point in your life as bartenders in which you will start to figure out, maybe it's time for me to get a real job. But bartending is a real job. It might not be a real job in the beginning because it's all about partying and drinking, but it has moved so much further from that point, if you ask me. Even the dive bars today, it's still a job. Yes, we work nights, but we provide excellent services. We provide experiences. It's show business. It's not different from an actor or a doctor or a nurse or a singer. They work nights too. Yes, sometimes we work very late nights, but that's a choice. You just need to make sure that, first of all, stay fit, stay healthy, stay away from all the temptations, and then make sure that you have a base. I'm quite sure that's 100% a part of my success.
It's easy to say it. Obviously, it's much easier to say it than
everything I'm saying right now is very easy to say, but it's still
doing it.
It's still long hours. It's still you need to never quit. That's the thing the dark side of all this is that you work so hard for so long, and it's not just hard because you don't get that much sleep. It's also physically very hard. Working 12, 15-hour shifts, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days in a row for years. For a normal person, that would sound absolutely insane. And I'm gladly admit that I might be a little bit insane in order to be a part of this. But that's kind of the beauty of it. I think the insanity becomes the team spirit, which then becomes the nirvana of service, right? You can clearly see when you've been at an event in which you have pinpointed and selected the right team members, or just yourself for that matter. You can just see the guests. They feel that, whoa. You can it's almost like on a quantum level that you have increased the awareness of how good a service experience can be. And if that becomes a drug and a passion, you will end up ignoring that you did maybe get 4 or 5 hours. You did get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. When I got my second child, for 8 months straight, I slept less than 8 hours between Wednesday and Sunday, because you came back home around 4 or 5 in the morning, you went back up at 7 to do your daddy duties, and it was back to work because you had your own business. So it was Cocktail Academy from 9 in the morning until 12, then a quick gym session, and then hotel, and then you did that 4 days in a row, 4 weeks a month.
Yeah,
Every fifth Saturday were my day off.
You do that when you have your own business, but when you are behind the bar, the temptations are high. I mean, in our line of work, the temptations are super high and easy accessible. I know you never went to that path, but how would you see it now? How can you stay away? How you manage to stay away from all of the temptation?
I think most of all it's about limiting yourself to 1 or 2 drinks instead of 4 to 5 drinks. And this is actually, it's a scientific proving that you teach your body to enjoy things, you know? So if you get a flavor, if you get a taste of whiskey and you start enjoying whiskey on a regular basis, you would naturally crave whiskey when you have finished a 8-10 hour shift, or a beer, or a wine, or a Negroni. Negroni has always been mine. I still crave a Negroni, but the less I drink it, the less I want it. The same thing with sugar, because, you know, after all, it's sugar. From the base thing that we serve is sugar, you know, alcohol comes from sugar. So it's a part of the addiction, and alcohol is supposed to be a product in which you enjoy as a sophisticated drink, something that will highlight flavors that you wouldn't be able to create without the addition of alcohol. That's the craft part that comes in, that you use syrup that is made of sugars. You use juice that has natural sugars, then you use spirit that has sugars in it as well. So becoming addicted is very easy. Then you also become addicted to the vibe. You become addicted to the people, and the people maybe have a certain energy that attracts you. Let's say you find your significant other, you know, the one that is on the same energy level as you would naturally be drawn to be spending more time with this person. And this person might have a very, I would say, loose relationship to alcohol. Then it becomes easy to do the same downfall for yourself, and you end up saying, why would I spend so much time with this? And the moment that you maybe refrain from spending time with this person, the person will naturally just disappear. Also, in terms of how the people you meet in the industry will affect your way forward. So if you can see this guy, he's in the industry from all the wrong reasons. He does bad business. Maybe it's not even alcohol, it's also drugs, or maybe, you know, some other stuff that you wouldn't know about. It can also be sex, it can be everything. But if you can keep it to a sophisticated level, which is why I always kept trying to go into places that would have a very, you know, have a certain level of service, because then I knew that people were there for the professional skill set, for the professional part of the industry. So I've never been prone to addiction, but I've always been, you know, wanting to go out and have a party. But I always waited until the Saturday. Yeah. I would go out on Saturdays, because then I wouldn't go out and have to go to a shift the day after, because I would have Sundays off. So I think but then again, I've always, you know, taken care of myself. You know, I've going to the gym or going to soccer practice or hockey practice. I always made sure to stay healthy. So physically, I always try to manage myself, which is also incredibly important, because then you don't feel the same, you know, load on your body. When you get your sleep, when you don't drink that much, and you get to the gym, you actually feel energized and you look forward to come to the shift. And you can do that 4 or 5 times in a row throughout your 20s and your 30s. But then it becomes, I'm turning 40 next year. I can feel that having shifts 2-3 days a week, and then also taking care of all the other aspects of my life, that will be too much. For long term, it will be too much. For short term, it's different, because then you can still be in it and be happy about it. That's at least the best advice that I can give. That you know, monitor the people that you spend time with in the industry. Go for places in which you know you can learn something. When you can't learn anything, then move to the next, you know, pedestal, and just move on up. And then when you think that you are the smartest person in the room, start your own business. Even beforehand, it can also just because you found that perfect area for your bar. Most people or most bartenders dream about owning their own bars, But very good bartenders aren't necessarily good business owners. So it's also about, do you even have what it takes? Do you want to work that much? Or is it just easy to just come to work, do your job, then fuck off, and then be off when you're off? Which is also something that has now become much more relevant, because back in the day, you'll be working constantly, right? All the time. When you were off, you were doing master classes, or you would meet with your colleagues for a beer or two, or you would go out to other bars and visit other bars. When you go into industry today, you can have a full functioning day life next to your bartending career, because the economy is better. At least people are much more. I would say guests are much more prone to spending more money in bars, and we've been able to raise the bar on salaries and also, healthcare and personal needs, and the unions have gathered more and more traction also in hotels, but also restaurants and bars. So you're pretty much taken care of. So you can have 2, 3, maybe 4 shifts a week, and then have a full functioning day life in which you can study, you can spend time with your friends, you can work out, you can even have a second job on the side, right? So being professional in the industry today, it's pretty easy. Also, we have gotten almost the same attention as chefs. We're still not quite there. There's still a long way of regarding drinks the same way as food, but being a bartender today on a professional level is equally as admirable and, I would say, impressive as being a professional chef.
How would you see after post-COVID thing? I mean, in Denmark, the way that I see it, the industry was great. COVID came, a lot of people realized that they can do something else, and I see a gap of 2-3 years. How do you see the new ones coming in? Do you see any new ones from a business perspective where you have to hire staff, or from a bar as a consultant where you need to find people that stays in the industry? How easy is it now compared to 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's a lot different. The new generation, they have a lot of opinions, and they also know their rights. So you need to it's a lot more micromanagement. Banter 5 years back, it could be very sexist. It could be very, it could be brutally, or just brutal. It could be very brutal in terms of how to treat people, also with the ranks and, the hierarchy. And you need to especially on a management level, you need to be so much more aware of how you present yourself and your business and how you communicate. And also communication, it's a lot. You can't just throw out a video. It needs to be visual, it needs to be audio, it needs to be, you need to teach people in 3 different ways, 5 different ways. You can see the same in elementary school. Kids, you can't put everyone into the same box anymore. You need to talk to each and everyone in the room to know that, okay, this guy, he likes his bar station to be like that. That waiter needs to have all these things lying down in front of him in order to perform the work. And then you need to have much more of a visualization of, this is where we are, this is where we want to be, and that's just the staff part. But it's a whole other level when it comes to the guests, because you're being judged in a completely different way now. First of all, not many people like to drink alcohol the same way that used to do. So you need to take care of that. You need to make sure that you have non-alcoholic versions or low versions. You need to have wine from different aspects. You need to have natural wine, organic wines. You need to have New World, Old World. The food needs to be able to be presented in lots of different ways, because you have pescatarians, you have vegetarians, and you also have vegans, and some people have some other dietary, but they can't say nuts or lactose. So there's so many things. The beauty of this is that you get much more knowledge. You get to learn much more about how you can make a business that is almost flawless. And then there is the footprint in terms of the environment that we take care of our trash, that we take care of our staff in a way that we do, the way we use resources, and the way the ECG, the ECG report, which apparently is something that's coming from us or coming for us. So yeah, I would say you need to be much more. It's hard to say flawless, because you do make flaws. Mm-hmm. And you will eventually you would see yourself in this industry as being, I have a responsibility. Mm-hmm. So responsible business administration is much more present now that whenever. I think if you want to start a business today, make sure that you really want it and do it proper the first time. You will make a lot of mistakes, but learn from them and move on. No regrets, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas before Corona, you could do everything halfway through. and still be successful. It was a lot easier before Corona because people were, I would say, less frightened. Today we're so afraid of everything. We're afraid of sugar, we're afraid of wars, we're afraid of finance, we're afraid of it. So people just, and that's just a cultural thing, and we're afraid of other people because we have been, locked behind the screens. And now we need to come out of our cozy living rooms and start meeting people the same way. So, when I met my wife, it was about, I like that girl. I will go up to her and talk to her face straight. Hey, you look amazing. May I buy you a drink?
Now it's not the
Now
case.
I would stand next to her and just check out if she's on Facebook or on Instagram or Tinder, and then swipe right, and then, or is it left? I actually don't know. And then maybe she will do the same. And hey, I'm right behind you. I already got pre-confirmation that we are able to talk to each other. And yeah, I wish, and that's a negative part. I wish for the future that people would be less negative and just, stay on the positive side and then talk to people the same way that we would talk to everyone else. And if you fuck up, just say, hey, sorry, I fucked up. Let's move on.
Yeah. All right, Jannik. Thank you so much for being here. I have two more questions for you before wrapping this podcast up.
Yeah.
And the way that we like to do it and the way that we did it before on this podcast, it's one question. We ask everybody the same question. And the other one, it's a personalized question for you. Which one do you want me to start with?
Let's do the question that let's do the personalized question, and then we finish with the...
Perfect. If we do the personalized question, you have tremendously a lot of insights in this industry, into the hospitality industry. But if you have, let's say right now, you, Jannik Graham, never worked into this industry, you are from another industry and you want to come into the hospitality, what would you say in 2024, 2025 is the easiest way to come in?
That's a good question. The easiest way is always to just offer yourself. First of all, you need to identify where you want to work. You might not be qualified, but then you can start in the lower ranks. Then if you want to do a restaurant, you can start by doing the dishes and then just work super hard and be smart about the way you communicate with the people, and you need to start to take courses and everything. If you want to be a chef, you need to train yourself as a chef. But it's about being really persistent. Let's say that, as I mentioned earlier, Giorgio, my former bar manager when I worked in Dubai, he was an accountant. He started by being a barback at a two-star restaurant, Hakkasan in London. So he was just barbacking, and through barbacking he learned about the cocktails, he learned about the logistics, he learned about vendors, he learned about suppliers, he learned about produce, he learned about recipes, he learned the story of bartending, and then he just worked harder than everyone else. But he was also spending a lot of time studying. So he studied all the stuff that he got, so his skill set and his knowledge became much more than everyone else, much faster. But then again, back to you work harder than everyone else, but you also, you show the people around you that you really want this. And it's very easy for the manager in which you're trying to, sell yourself to that, okay, this guy, he's just always there. Or this girl is constantly on time. Maybe she's even coming in 2-3 hours before service just to prepare, or even just maybe clean the bar so it looks extra good. And then it's basically just continuing that pathway until you get to the point in which you feel that you nailed it.
That's great. And the one that I'm asking every single person is, what motivates you to stay in this industry or work behind the bar?
That's a good question, but to me it's the guest experiences. I have to say it's very, it's also my ego, I guess. When I'm in front of a crowd that I know that I've made a menu or made an experience that I'm proud of, and then getting the standing ovation or getting all the feedback, which usually is super positive, I can't get enough of that. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's still, working hours is sometimes a bit of a hazard, but we'll manage. We just plan differently. We make sure to have several teams. You have a night team, you have an opening team, you have an operational team. Surround yourself with good people. But I'd say it's about, First of all, I get easily bored in a normal job. To me, in this time that we live in, there's no such thing as a normal job anymore. You define yourself. It's all about you. Personal branding, it's much more, it's much more present than having, a business. So you can, create for yourself what makes you happy. And what makes me happy is happy guests. Relations between two people in a physical setting. That's actually that's the business style of Spitze, is to create relations between people in a setting in which we are the stage managers. We create the environment, we create the universe and the service that will connect you with the brand or with the product or with the other person, and etc.
That's such an amazing way to actually to finish this conversation as well, and to let the viewers or listeners think about this whole industry. And as I'm telling everyone, we would like to have you as well back, maybe in a year, maybe in faster.
I'll be more than happy to.
So we can see what happened in Spitze, what happened with Jannik, what happened with Jannik's drinks, and all of the other projects that you might create in the meantime.
There might be some other ones, but I try to. My wife told me that you can only have 3 projects at a time. Otherwise, you won't be able to spend enough time to make them successful. I would say maybe it's actually just 1 project that have 3 ongoing projects. So, I'll be happy to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Without further ado, thank you so much, Jannik, and
thank you, Manuel.
Looking forward for the next time.
Me too.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Barbox, the podcast. This episode was produced by Mihai Paul and I, Manuel Lică, with thanks to Mina Media Company. Please find us on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you are getting your podcasts. Be sure you subscribe and rate us. Thank you.